RuneScape was also the game that kind of taught me that people are scum. I had a lot of friends that were playing RuneScape with me at the very same time. Love it how this is the topic I'm fixated on right now. I had some friends that specifically got me into RuneScape, and it was fun. Fun playing with them. We all were idiots. We're middle schoolers. What were we supposed to know? But so, some of the guys have been playing for a lot longer than I had. Let's go from the bottom, I think. Oops, missed completely. That's okay. That's why I like the Assassin Dagger so much. It's so good. It's so good. But so, some of these guys have been playing for a fair bit longer than I had. So as a result, there's kind of an imbalance of power. I don't know how many of you guys, like, oh, there's a time door out here now. Huh. I will have to check that out, actually. But, so, one guy specifically, Matt. I'm not gonna say his last name or whatever, but super common first name. So Matt was, Matt had been playing RuneScape for quite a while, and he was a very high-level character, and he had quite a lot of money. And so he was like, okay, I'm gonna take you and your brother kind of under my wing, and teach you guys how to play. And he had us, like, doing mining for him and, like, various other things. And my brother and I, not really knowing, like, what we were doing, we're like, okay, sure, this seems reasonable. And effectively, we were working under him doing mining and stuff like that. And what we would do is we'd mine, like, X amount of iron, and then he'd turn it into steel or something and sell it for a higher cost. But effectively, we were just the grunt labor, and he was middle management. What Matt didn't tell us was that he was paying us for literally a third of the price of iron. He was actively screwing us. That's new. That's cool. I like how much they've changed this area. I actually really like this. How old were we? I was in 8th grade, I think. Maybe, yeah, I was in 8th grade. Yeah, like 14 or 15. And I shouldn't have trusted him, honestly. I should have known, like, hey, this kid is probably going to screw me here. But I didn't know if he was a kid. He was in my classes, Shell. Stop. I've never told you this story, so you don't know this. Just listen. Also, nobody can hear you. But so Matt was screwing us, and like we would talk over lunch, we'd like make plans and stuff like that. But so he was actively screwing us out of quite a lot of money. I think I sold him quite like a couple thousand iron over the course of this entire process, and really, like, shame on me for not like checking this before it all happened. But one day I see somebody, I think actually at the mines themselves, is like, hey, I'll buy your iron for like X amount, and I'm like, that is an incredible deal, why are you doing this? He's like, no, I'm actually kind of cheating you here. And like the price, I was getting paid 15 gold per, I was getting paid 15 gold per iron from Matt. The real price was about 50, maybe 60, kind of depending on the day. And this guy was paying me about 45, which I did not mind because he was the person that taught me, like, hey, by the way, your friend's screwing you. And it destroyed my friendship because I was more or less like, dude, like, that was a super dick move. And Matt, ex-friend Matt, his response was, tough shit, you should have known better. And I'm like, you're my friend. And, like, you don't just, like, screw friends over in, like, a time-consuming MMO, where it, like, actually matters. Like, I screw Bird and Keith over all the time, but never for my own personal gain, apart from, I guess, my enjoyment, and sometimes to get ahead in a short-term competitive match or something silly like that. But never in a situation where, like, feelings would actually remain hurt, generally. And his reaction was just so, like, neener, I screwed you over, that I literally never spoke to him kindly ever again after that point. And, like, to some degree, it kind of doesn't matter. Probably didn't matter at all to him, whether or not I spoke to him kindly, because he was kind of a sociopathic jerk. But for me, that was, like, a very eye-opening experience, because I was just like, this is a kid that, like, actively, has, like, no interest in me as a person, apart from, being a resource, to exploit. Capitalism. But so, I guess now when I hear about, like, current events and stuff like that, I'm like, so that's how these people exist and operate. I don't know what he ever did with himself. He was definitely one of those kids that, like, he was kind of a loner to begin with, but by alienating me and a couple other people, he pretty much just had, like, no friends by the time college ended. He ended up, giving his account to somebody else, and I'm not going to say, like, in a stroke of irony, but this other guy did almost the exact same thing. So Matt gave his account to Mike for whatever reason, and Mike was not much better than Matt. Both were kind of jerks. And unfortunately for Mike, the trick didn't work. Because we already knew he was going to try and screw us, because he was doing the exact same tactics. It was actually quite strange. But so Mike tries to do the same thing, and he kind of burns bridges with my little brother, because they were in the same class. Like, it was this, like, weird mirrored thing that the two, like, kind of jerkwads were using the same account, because Matt gave it to Mike, and the cycle repeated with my little brother. But this time I was around to be like, hey, by the way, he's screwing you. And my brother's like, well, screw this guy. Children are cruel wander. At this point, these are, like, teenagers. These are people that should generally know that, like, you don't just treat your friends like complete trash. But so, yeesh. Oh, this should be easy enough, actually. But so the cycle repeated with this guy, and he more or less destroyed his friendship with my brother in, like, two kind of scammy actions, and then being kind of an unrepentant jerk about it. But years later, like, literally, I want to say 2 years ago, right before I moved, right before I moved from Massachusetts to Kansas, my brother had a party, and he and a couple of friends were down in the basement together, and this guy, the younger guy, Mike shows up, and I'm in the basement doing YouTube-y stuff. Maybe I was talking to Shell or something. I was busy. I'm also kind of antisocial when it comes to like interpersonal events, especially with non-YouTube-y gaming people. Just because I actually don't have that much in common with people anymore, and if I have, like, work to do, I generally will just go do the work instead. I don't know. I'm a hermit. This is a big level, actually. Or this, I don't know. But so we see him again. And at this point, I think he's going into pre-med. And originally, I had made, like, some kind of snide comment to my brother, and my brother had, like, kind of mirrored it. About, like, you know, oh, of course he's going into pre-med. Because it's super traditional for people that I know that went into pre-med to do it largely just to get a ton of money. You know, just to be rich doctors. And I was like, do something you actually like, man. Don't just go into being a doctor because that makes money. Yeah, also his previous behavior was very much, like, sociopathic and completely immoral. And so my brother has this party, and he tags along with one of the other pre-med friends whose parents pushed him into being pre-med. I think he dropped out, sadly. Whoops. Watching these guys try and slow hook me is amazing. Asocial, not antisocial. Yeah, that makes more sense. I can be perfectly social. Sometimes I just kind of prefer to be alone and working on my own stuff. This is really risky. Okay, so there's a mist caller there. Yep. Ow. Whoa. Let's use that whip. Owie. Okay. Yeah, I gotta remember to use the grenades. We have not gotten as many upgrades this run as the last one, but I guess the last one we had more levels. No, same amount. I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't matter that much. But so he shows up to this party, and nobody was kind of expecting him there, but it's just like, okay, whatever. You know, we'll just be mature people, because, let's be honest here, most of this stuff all happened in, like, middle school and early high school. But the end result was, he, like, came into my, like, kind of little hobo office, in my parents' basement. I don't know, neat office. And, he, like, talks to me for a little while, and he just straight up apologized for being such a, like, twat when we were younger, and, you know, being kind of just not a good person. And he apologized for it without, like, even, like, me bringing it up. He's just like, you know how I was, like, a huge jerk when we were, like, in high school? I was like, yeah? Like, I don't really care about it anymore. And he's like, no, 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 no. I care about it. And he, like, I think he hugged me even and stuff like that, but it was just, like, actually one of the more meaningful things a person has done for me ever. And it was just so, like, taken aback by it, because I was not expecting this kind of reaction from this guy. And I'm like, okay, this guy's gonna be a good doctor. The other guy on the other hand was having, like, a constant mental breakdown because med school was, like, so bad for him. And I don't think he was going to make it as a doctor, which I feel really bad about, but, like, some people just aren't cut out for it. I don't know. It was just such a weird situation. I, of course, did not have much of a response, because I was just like, huh, this is wildly unexpected, but thank you. Have a nice life. You probably will actually have one. I don't know, let's think of more, like, weird, petty people stories. I guess let's tell, Wanderbro, stories. I don't think most of them matter. But so when we were in, middle school, or when my brother was in middle school, we had moved to Massachusetts when I was in 7th grade. So I only had a year and, well, not even a year and a half left on middle school before I moved on to high school. But my brother was there for 2.5 years, and so as a result, he got probably a little bit closer with people, because high school kind of alienates people and stuff like that. Let's see, have I already been in here? Yeah, I have. Okay. But so, Wanderbro, I gotta come up with, like, a better name to call him, because I guess just my brother. It's about the same number of syllables. Wanderbot, me, Mike, Matt. It's all short. My brother's real name has several syllables. And I also don't want to dox him. Though honestly, if you know my name, you could probably find him real easy. Because at this point, he's, like, published in like, national research articles and stuff like that. Dude's actually kind of impressive. He left a comment on one of my videos once, and I'm like, what are you doing? You'll blow your cover. I was like, I guess he probably doesn't care so much. Nobody's going to look for him. But so when he was in middle school, he had a very close-knit group of friends. They're all in the same Boy Scout troop as us. I did not have the same experience because my entire generation on Boy Scouts always quit Boy Scouts, no matter where I lived in the country. My generation would just be like, oh, Boy Scouts is neat, and then never come back. And I'm like, but friends or something. So I'd always, like, just go on trips with my dad, because didn't have any better options. But so my brother, on the other hand, actually had friends that he would hang out with, and so on and so forth. Which is weird, because my asocial tendencies, like, we traded places. I used to be the extreme social butterfly, I just didn't have anybody to be social with. And my brother was, like, so introverted it hurt. Do we want that? Bleed out when it thaws. No, we want the frost-related slowdowns. Those are super helpful. But so, whip. I guess we can use the electric whip. the extremely outdated electric whip to kill these guys. We are probably going to be fine. We are very weak on this run. Last run was better. We might actually still lose. Main grace we have is the frost boom combo to keep us going. But yeah, so my brother had a really close group of friends for several years. We would, you know, do LAN parties. I was kind of there. You know, the ever-present older brother that, like, that would be at, like, most social interactions. And for the most people, for the most part, people tolerated me. There were a couple of people that, you know, definitely I didn't get along with all the time. But for the most part, it was fairly amicable and fun and stuff like that. Nobody really begrudged me for being there. But, so there were, like, tons of LAN parties. And I'd say kind of the, like, not the main friend, but, like, the main friend that we'd hang out with. He would, like, host LAN parties at his house and stuff like that. He got really into Counter-Strike. I don't know how many of you guys, were, like, big into Counter-Strike when it was Counter-Strike and Counter-Strike Source. Sad part is, I think I got the kid addicted to Counter-Strike because I was the one that, showed him Counter-Strike. But see, he wanted to go pro. He made, like, a ton of pro Counter-Strike friends and stuff like that. He was kind of the quintessential younger kid that gets in with like a bunch of older kids and would kind of ditch his older friends in favor of hanging with the cool kids. But so he was also kind of like extremely overweight. And this isn't mostly relevant except for when he hit high school, he got into rowing like really hard. I don't know how many of you guys got into like super serious sports when you were growing up. I don't know, high school, middle school. But so this guy got super serious into rowing, like rowing every day, rowing practice at 5 a.m., rowing practice, you know, summer, winter, doesn't matter when, where, what. That's where he was. And his life became rowing. Ow. Why did I take so much damage from that? But as a result, he also started spending a ton of time with his rowing friends, which also not a big deal. But my brother, being kind of antisocial, not having a whole lot of variety of friends, meant my brother pretty much had nobody to hang out with. And effectively, he'd like try and organize things to hang out with this guy and his previous friend group. And eventually the friend's like, look, you know, I'm too busy hanging out with, like, these older guys, and we're doing all these, like, cool things, and I'd love to have you there, but it's kind of like a us-only thing. You know, that kind of classic, like, you're still my friend, but these guys are more my friends, so I'm going to hang out with them specifically. Oh. Yeah, I guess it really does hurt, because we do not have the health cap that we did on the last run. But yeah, so he went from being a complete butterball to a really thin, really buff dude. A really short, really thin buff dude. Like, he was maybe 5'4", 5'6". He was never tall. Which is a shame, because both of his brothers were like 6'5". They were monster men. And so I think that always rankled. But effectively, he got really buff and effectively, like, ditched all of his friends to smoke weed with the rowing guys and hang out with the rowing guys and so on and so forth. So my brother went out and made a ton of friends. I've told stories about them rather recently, you know, the D&D friends. And, you know, obviously all friendships are hit and miss, and there were definitely some bad eggs and so on and so forth. But suffice to say, my brother had, like, solidly moved on. And generally, as a result, I think my brother kind of grew a personality. I don't know if I want to ever say that to him, but he went from, like, this meek, you know, opinionated guy, but he didn't stand up for himself as much, and he wasn't, like, as strong as of a dude as he currently is. And so he goes from, like, being, you know, meek and smart as hell, but, you know, generally just a quiet, bookish guy, to very outgoing, like, adventure, high adventure, running on the cross-country team, like, constantly, so on and so forth. And generally just being a better person across the board. And he pretty much just never even interacted with these friends anymore. Because the other friend, one of the other friends, like, he would still kind of hang out occasionally, but he was always kind of super unstable. He definitely, I don't think he had bipolar disorder, but he definitely could have been there. If his parents had, like, probably brought him to the right doctor to diagnose it. And, like, he was mostly fine, but he still had his problems. He also followed the first guy onto the rowing team, and so they would still hang out, but less so on this guy's case. And then the last guy just kind of spiraled down like crazy, to the point where, like, oh, I forgot these guys exist here. There we go. Spiraled down like crazy to the point where, like, he was kind of a non-functional person. I don't know if it was drugs or what, but, like, we just couldn't, like, get him to even show up to his own birthday party. It was that bad. Okay, this guy will execute me if I let him. Let's let the mist go and let's get the ice grenade going. There we go. Ow. But so trying to get back to this. Okay, so yeah, my brother like made a lot of friends and like really grew as a person, so on and so forth. Senior year rolls around and you know, rowing guy that I was talking about, he has, ooh, don't want to do that. I could if I had more HP, but I don't want to do that. So let's actually sack some health here for a little bit more damage. Let's keep looking around. But yeah, so senior year rolls around, and all of the upperclassmen for rowing guy have graduated. And again, he's the kind of guy that specifically hangs out with, you know, the older, cooler crowd. And he didn't have access to, like, you know, college kids or anything like that at this point. So his immediate reaction is to go back to my brother, you know, 3 years later. And I was there for this, and it was kind of one of the more interesting things where I was just like, you are a lot more of a badass than I, like, ever quite realized. But effectively, he was like, hey, we can start hanging out again. And my brother's just like, I don't really want to. Like, just kind of, no. I'm kind of too busy for what we used to do. And it was definitely, like, one of the milder shutdowns I've ever seen. But it was just kind of the like, quiet, perfect, like, everything you needed to say and nothing more to shut this guy down. And I was just really impressed. Okay, let's see if I can freeze this guy. Oh yeah, that's how we're gonna kill this guy. Honestly, this might be an easier kill as long as I don't take too much damage, but we got a shield, which will help a lot. There we go. But I don't know, tooting my brother's horn. That sounds weird. But I just thought that was really cool. I don't get to see a whole lot of, like, really badass, like, unassailably, badass shutdown moments from people. Usually when you shut somebody down, you're kind of, like, halfway a dick to it. But I was like, no, this is, like, completely justified and stuff like that. Trying to be cool at school was weird. It was so goddamn pointless. I never got it. Some part of me always wants to go back to a high school reunion. I should probably... I've got 2 years before the next one. I want to go back to a high school reunion, just so I can see, like, what happened to all the kids. Because I had, like, quite a lot of, like, pseudo friends that never really, like, probably would have never made it anywhere, or didn't make it anywhere or anything like that. Son of a bitch. He keeps, like, running away on me and stuff like that. But, you know, kind of that, like, classic, you come back later and, like, so-and-so popular kid that was a jerk to you was fat, and so on and so forth. I had a problem with I've definitely told this story on stream before, but I had a problem with a bully, specifically in gym class. Ah, classic. But he was one of the football guys. And technically he was on the shot put team, and I was his team captain, but, like, nobody gave a shit about the shot put team. That was just there so they could get out of gym class in spring quarter. Which was stupid to begin with, but, I gotta remember I can do that, because that's really badass. But so he would actively flip off the lights in the locker room, which really doesn't sound like that big of a deal. But if you're trying to, like, get from one end of the... Our school is, like, really spread out, and so they, after gym class, if you were in a rush, you were kind of screwed. Especially if somebody starts, like, screwing with you. And he was dead set on making sure that I could never even get my locker open. And the teacher following specifically was very, very, detention happy. She would give detention no matter what your excuse was. I had to carry a girl that was going into... Okay, that's another story. I had to carry a girl that was, puking her brains out to the nurse's office, and I was late to this class. And the teacher is still just like, nope, no excuses, detention for you. At which point I had the assistant principal show up and yell at her. The assistant principal never yelled at anybody, so that was kind of like a huge personal victory for me. But yeah, so this bully kid would actively turn the lights off. Oh, we're in trouble here. Interesting. I think it slowed down for that. Well, that's cool. Yeah, this is the problem with things being really slow. Okay. I wonder if you can block the guy coming up. But yeah, so this guy would actively, like, just flip the lights off just as I was, like, starting to work on my, locker combo. Which really doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but, again, couldn't get it, and I needed my books, because, again, don't bring your books, detention. And I really just didn't have any other solution. And, of course, the gym teacher was super unhelpful. He was like, well, boys will be boys, sort it out yourselves, and I'm like, fucking, I can't go to class. I was, like, half an hour late one day. It was that bad, because this guy had a free period, so of course he could bully me over, like, whatever he wanted. So one day I just kind of had it, and he had, like, his goon with him. This is such, like, a weird classic high school story. I killed him with a bleed effect. That's hilarious. But, so he had, like, this shorter goon that was, like, a friend of friends, and... Like, all of his friends were, like, really cool, chill dudes, but this kid was always kind of that, like, little ratty guy that would be there if somebody was doing bullying, and he'd be like, hehehe. So what ended up happening was, I lost it. I got, like, super pissed off, and he was, like, flicking on and off the lights, and so he'd keep the lights off for a while. So part of the reason why this was a problem is my locker was on the opposite end from where the light switches were, so if I wanted to turn the lights back on, I'd have to stumble through a pitch-black gym locker room because there were no emergency lights or anything like that. I killed him with a bleed effect. That's funny. So I'd have to go across, and then I go back, and he would have left, but then he'd sneak back in and flip the lights back off. And it was just like the shittiest, like most annoying, petty bullshit. But he got a rise out of me because I was legitimately like pissed off about it. So what I ended up doing was he flipped the lights off. I go over, and he flips the lights back on halfway as I'm going, except for I was breaking into a dead sprint, and as he flips the light back on to, like, laugh at me and see my reaction, I am actually flying through the air with, like, one of my legs kind of, like, you know, bent in front of me. It was a shitty kick, but it was enough to, like, knock him back a couple of feet and wind him pretty hard. And then the like, shitty little rat kid was, like, next, and I turned on him, and I was, like, super hyped on adrenaline because I cannot handle confrontation at all. And he just, like, walked away, you know, freaking out and stuff like that. And I felt so intensely guilty the entire situation. And, like, I literally went to, the next class, got detention, of course, because I was late. But asked his friend to apologize to him. And he actually took it very gracefully. The moment I stood up to him and kicked him on his ass, he never, ever bothered me ever again. Shitty little rat kid made fun of me mercilessly for it, but then, as a joke, he's like, here, show me how to do it, in front of the coach, and the coach is like, well, do it, and so I kicked him. And the coach is like, see? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes, and that was the end of it, and then I never got made fun of again. At that point, I was kind of, like, super loner art kid, but still, but I really want to go back to a reunion or something just to see what happened to these two dudes. Because they were kind of one of the shittiest people. They were kind of some of the shittiest people I ever met. At least throughout high school. And I'm like, what happened to these guys? I guess that's what Facebook's for, but like, it's not quite the same because everybody makes themselves look good on Facebook. And I want to see like the real thing. Like, how fat, how scrubby, so on and so forth. Vindiction is a terrible thing. So is Schadenfreude. I'm addicted to both.